The issues affecting you. Revealed, explained, discussed. Now on WGAL8 In Focus.
Hello, I'm Susan Shapiro and welcome to WGAL8 In Focus. This is a program where we have a conversation about the issues affecting the Susquehanna Valley. Human trafficking is often called modern-day slavery. People, mostly women and children, are forced into the sex trade or into some type of labor.
Millions of people are trafficked every year.
This crime, this insidious crime, is happening in every single area, rural, suburban, and urban in our Commonwealth.
It's happening here in the Susquehanna Valley. A trafficking ring operated between New Jersey and Lancaster County, in some hotels, in a tourist area along Route 30. And prosecutors just busted what they say was a sex trafficking operation in a Reading home.
They will not say anything because they are being forced to keep silent. They're being told if something happens to them, they'll be injured or hurt.
Lawmakers are pushing for tougher penalties for traffickers and those who pay for sex.
This is a very difficult subject and we want to have this discussion. We are going to be discussing sex and sex trafficking, so we hope you'll stay with us. We have two great guests in our first segment. Janelle Espenshade is with North Star Initiative, and that operates a restoration home for survivors of sex trafficking in Lancaster County, but you get people from all over. And we also have a young woman with us we will only call HL. She does not want her face shown, which we certainly have agreed to, because she has quite a story to tell. So we thank both of you for being here, and we certainly want to respect your privacy. So hopefully we will just call you HL at this point. Janelle, tell us, how do you define sex trafficking and human trafficking?
Yes, human trafficking is the transportation, harboring, recruiting of individuals for exploitation.
Who's doing this?
Traffickers, pimps, men, women who want to make money. It's all about money. The end game is all about money.
Are we talking a lot of money? Is there a lot of money in this business?
We are talking a lot of money. Trafficking, human trafficking, sex trafficking has become one of the largest crimes and is on the rise for the largest money-making business in this industry next to drug trafficking.
Wow, so it's a very serious industry.
Yes.
How did you come to know HL?
HL is part of our restoration program. We operate a 24/7 residential program that's designed to really help the survivors from their trauma when they have been involved in the life of trafficking.
HL, thanks so much for being here. I know you're from the South, so we've heard your accent, which was great earlier. Begin to tell me, how did your story start? What happened?
I left my husband. I got into a really bad relationship, and there was verbal, physical, emotional abuse. I just felt worthless. Like I didn't really have a reason or purpose. And in that relationship, he began to use drugs, in which I was forced to do so also. I eventually got hooked, and when we separated, I had no way of getting my drugs. My family were just kind of fading away. I didn't know how to talk to them about it. I just felt alone. And so the end resort was moving away from my family and getting in contact with people where I could get drugs, I could get high and not be ashamed or worried about my family. And I was introduced to a guy that could help me get money and drugs and give me a place to stay.
And what was your payment to him? What did you have to do?
It was sexual favors, trafficking drugs, and whatever he said.
How long did that go on for?
3.5, 4 years.
And what was that like for you?
Traumatic. That's really the only word for it. You lose yourself. You lose your value. You're very belittled. You're not really a person anymore. You're an object, you're an item. And when you're not useful anymore, you're just thrown away. It's like an old toy.
Wow. Did you feel trapped in this situation?
Trapped, no way out. Suicide was definitely something I went through a couple of times. Yeah, there's really no way out. No way out at all, unless it's jail or death.
Now, you said you were doing sexual favors for this man and for others as well?
Yes,
And how often was that going on?
multiple times a day. Sometimes 20 to 30 people a day. 20, 30 people. I didn't see any money. The money went straight to him. Yeah.
And where were you living at this time? Was he giving you a place to live?
Different motels every night, or staying with whoever I was doing favors for. But when I didn't abide by the rules, I've lived in abandoned houses, burnt down homes, vehicles. I lived on a bridge for a while. So, yeah, wherever I could find shelter.
Wow, you must have been so fearful.
Fearful, but in a way, it's like your body's way of survival mode. Yeah. And I'm still kind of stuck in that stage.
Wow, well, we're going to talk more with you and also in our next segment. Is this a common story, Janelle?
Yes. Although every situation is slightly different, of course, this is common. There's a lot of threats, there's a lot of abuse. These women feel, as you heard from HL, that there's no value. They don't have any worth, value, nothing worth living for.
I imagine someone doing that to you every day certainly decreases your self-worth and self-feeling.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's dehumanizing. It's just they're dehumanizing these individuals and taking away all their rights.
HL, I know you shared with me that this is really the first time you're telling your story publicly, or even to anyone for that matter. Why did you want to come join us and share your story?
I need to. My emotions and feeling is very hard for me, and I have not been able to do that so far. Even in my situation, I wasn't allowed to feel. If I cried, I got punished. I mean, any reaction was punishment. So in my mind, it's kind of like, I can't do it, but I need to heal. And the way my thought process is, if it feels uncomfortable, I push it to the side. And this is a time where I feel like in order for me to fully heal, I have to accept what I've been through and share it and maybe help somebody else in the process.
And when you say punished, what happened to you?
I was beaten. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I know you've written some things in a journal, and we're going to share that in our next segment, and we thank you both. You're going to come back and stay with us and share some more of your stories, so thank you for that, and we'll have more of that. As we go to the break, we will leave you with resources you can use to report human trafficking and how victims can get help.
This is WGAL8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
And welcome back to WGAL8 in Focus, where we are discussing human trafficking. Pennsylvania is ranked 9th in the nation for the number of cases of human trafficking. The National Human Trafficking Hotline says it received 113 reported cases in 2015, and that number more than doubled in 2018 to 275. And you can see the full report at humantraffickinghotline.org. And with us again, our survivor of human trafficking, who we are only calling HL to protect her identity, and also Janelle Espenshade. She's with North Star Initiative, a restorative home in Lancaster County for survivors of human trafficking. And we've been hearing quite a compelling and horrifying story from HL. And I wonder, how do you begin the process of restoration for a survivor like her?
Yes, one of the things that's important is they have to have a safe, loving environment. So safety is very key for them to come in, first of all, to even stay. Because as you can only imagine, they have not been able to trust anybody when they've been in the life of trafficking. So they have to feel safe, number one. They need to be in a loving environment, an environment where we're there to listen to them. They need to have trauma therapy, individualized counseling. What most people don't understand is that the people that come out of the life of trafficking usually have no identification, no marketable skills, no job skills. They don't have the family support resources. And so that's what North Star does. We provide all of that for them.
Does that sound familiar, HL? You don't have any of those things?
I didn't. I do now.
What brought you here to North Star? How did you find out about it?
I was in jail, and I heard I was getting probation, but I knew I needed help to escape the trafficking, but also with my drug use. I had got so used to numbing myself that I was facing prison, and I didn't want that, but I didn't want to go back to trafficking. So when I heard about North Star, I prayed about it, and I just knew it was a place for me.
And how are you doing? How's it going?
I'm doing really well. I work part-time now. I start school in March for welding, and hopefully working towards a car.
Ah, well, that's good. Welding, you say?
Yes.
Now, that's an unusual trade for a woman, isn't it?
Yeah.
What got you into that?
I used to do it back home before all of this happened.
Now, you indicated what sounded to me like compartmentalizing, kind of putting this to the back, not even thinking about it. Is it difficult to discuss it even with the counselors and others at North Star?
Yes, I haven't even shared my story with them. So this is the first time. It's just so hard to feel. It's like reliving it all over again. It's just something I just want to forget. But it's hard to forget it. It's like imprinted on me. I'll take it with me wherever I go.
What's the worst part of when you say you want to forget? What is the worst part of it, do you think?
The fear, the hurt, neglect, shame, guilt.
We're going to be talking about a legislation, which will obviously give penalties to the people who are responsible for human trafficking. What do you think should happen to some of these people, or what do you think of what they've done to you?
Definitely more time. Yeah. The consequences should be so much stronger. It needs more awareness. Nobody really talks about it. It's just a hush-hush situation. It needs to be more widespread. We need more knowledge on it, more resources, more places like North Star.
It's very hidden, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were you told, don't tell anyone, be secretive?
Yeah.
That
It's just something you didn't talk about.
You'd get in trouble and you'd be punished?
Definitely.
So what do you think the future holds for HL? I know you told me you have a daughter. Do you hope to reunite with her?
Yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, I can't wait. Stronger family relationships. I have to regain trust. So I'm working on all that. But my future looks bright. I actually have something to live for now.
I imagine you're very wary of a lot of people. Is that what happens, as you mentioned, the lack of trust of people? Is that what happens?
And then the people I've hurt, so I have to regain trust with my family. So.
I know you've written something you said is short, that in a journal of sorts. Do you want to read that for us?
Yeah, it's just some of my backstory and how I got into it, got out. So I'll go ahead. I grew up in a loving Christian home, wonderful supportive family. I graduated high school in 2009, shortly after I got married. In 2012, I started college. In 2013, I had a daughter. The year later, I graduated from culinary school. My marriage started to get tough along with life, and in 2015, I left my husband. Months later, I got involved into a bad relationship. I was looking for the love, acceptance, the appreciation that I felt I was lacking. I got involved with someone who physically, verbally, mentally abused me daily to the point where I felt worthless, hopeless, helpless, and forgotten. After a while, he began using drugs, in which I was forced to do also. Eventually, I was hooked. The hurt, trauma, and anger had planted a seed in me that I still can't kill. After almost 2 years, I got the courage to leave, but I didn't have the courage to escape addiction. Constant use and trauma took everything away from me: my joy, job, car, home, marriage, daughter, happiness, hope, and will to live. I had already tried to commit suicide once, but didn't accomplish my goal. When money got slim and so did drugs, I completely abandoned my family and got involved with everything I could to numb my pain. After exchanging sex for drugs and money, I became known as the moneymaker. Everything was going better. Nice clothes, hotel room every night, different cars, phones, and drugs always on hand. Until one day, money got slim, which meant drugs were too. A girl I hung out with daily told me how to make more money. She said, let's go out of town and work for a friend. He had tons of money, drugs, and would give us a place to stay. Of course, I jumped on it. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I couldn't return home to be faced with reality. It hurt too much, so I liked not feeling. It kept me from the truth. Within months, I was working 2 to 3 weeks, 24 hours a day, no sleep, little food, high the whole time, yet ashamed. Before I realized that I was being forced to get more money for him, sell his drugs, meet his needs, and do everything he said. When I broke the rules, I was punished. When I cried, I was beaten. I kept getting higher to not feel until a purposeful overdose was unsuccessful. I've overdosed 9 times, raped more than I can remember, tried to commit suicide 3 times just to not have to face life. It wasn't until I got arrested a 3rd time I heard about the harbor. I knew I needed help and a way out. I applied, was accepted, and I'm now a 3-month-long resident with safety, security, love, appreciation, self-love, peace, and people who care. God's love and the love they have shown is immeasurable. I'm glad I'm still here because now I have the life I love the life I'm living.
Well, we're glad you're still here. We thank you so much for joining us today. And we will return with Representative Frank Ryan, who's going to be talking about some of the legislation in Pennsylvania.
This is WGAL8 In Focus, coverage you can count on.
And welcome back to In Focus, where we are talking about human trafficking. And joining us in the conversation now, Representative Frank Ryan of Lebanon County, who has sponsored a number of these bills that are going to go through legislation in Pennsylvania. And back with us again, Janelle Espenshade with North Star Initiative. Why the need for legislation on this particular issue? Why don't other laws apply to this?
Susan, we've expanded the definition of human trafficking significantly, as Janelle had mentioned in the first segment. And what it really has done is required us that we have to change all the other statutes in Pennsylvania to reflect that changing definition. And as people become more and more aware of the level of trafficking that's going on, and I think the number of cases that we've identified is just scratching the surface, we're all going to be stunned to find out. We estimate there are 40 million victims worldwide. Wow. And it's a $150 billion industry. So we have to stop and put that industry out of business.
And you're going after the traffickers in these laws.
We're going after the traffickers. I'm very pleased to see that Senate Bill 60, and which has an equivalent bill, House Bill 12, which was Representative Seth Grove and Senator Kristen Phillips Hill, was on the way to the governor for signature, which is also saying the people who use the services of a trafficker would in fact then be suffering the same penalties and consequences, so that we can start to put some real teeth into the judicial system, so that everybody is able to fight with the type of weapons we need to end this industry and protect the HL and those and the millions of people like HL. Very compelling story.
Absolutely. What about the motels and hotels? Should they be responsible at all or be on the lookout for this?
It's a really tough situation where it requires all of us. So one of the bills that we have, it's a resolution. And Representative Wendy Thomas sponsored it. It's a human traffic awareness issue. I think at first we need to make people aware of it, the hotels, the motels, us as citizens, family members. A good friend of mine was a victim of child abuse, sexual abuse, and he wrote a book called No More Stolen Childhoods. And part of what we did as an example at Good Shepherd Services is try to make people aware that the judicial system, the motels, the hotels, teachers, legislators, I'm so thankful for what Janelle and her team are doing and what you're doing by bringing awareness here. We all have to be aware that this is going on. And I think at some point in time we can get to those issues where we can say what's a more effective way to go. But I'm hopefully that we can put a lot more money into the treatment end as well, which some of our bills do. And I'm ecstatic that there's that type of visibility in the legislative and the executive branch to get these bills across the finish line. All of the House bills are now in the Senate, so we're waiting Senate action and hopefully put some real teeth into fixing an entire system that has to be repaired significantly.
I imagine you're glad to see this kind of legislation come along, Janelle.
We are. We're very excited. We're very excited to see that legislation is being put into play. We recently got to be part of the trial that took place here in Lancaster in November 2019, and we got to be the advocators for the women that came and testified. And that's part of our heart as well, to be able to advocate, because I think it's important that we have a support system in play for these women that have been in the life of trafficking.
And he mentioned more funding for groups like yours to help these survivors.
Yes.
Why, just very quickly, why is this area such a big area for human trafficking?
Well, first of all, it's actually much more pervasive than we all think. Pennsylvania has had over 600 cases identified, Susan. But I think if you look worldwide and nationwide, major harbors, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, are major hubs. The judicial systems, as an example, if we had a youngster who was trafficked by their parents, which happens frequently, noticed when we were at Good Shepherd, the judicial system would want to put the child back with the parents who trafficked them. So if you notice, there's a common theme of the drug issue, make the person dependent, dehumanize them, and we have to attack those root causes and get people aware, from the legislators to the teachers and everybody across the board.
Right.
I
All right, I don't mean to cut you off, but we will be right back. It's all intertwined,
It
isn't
is.
it? Yeah, and
Very
we're going
much
to be right back with what you can do to help victims of human trafficking, and we'll hear some final thoughts.
This is WGAL8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
And welcome back as we continue our conversation about human trafficking with Representative Frank Ryan and Janelle Espenshade of North Star Initiative. What would you say to someone who's watching and what they should notice about human trafficking?
First thing is education awareness. See changes in personality. If you see a child that looks like they're starting to become isolated from their friends as they normally would be, intervene as quickly as possible.
Is that what you're saying, education, Janelle?
Yes, the educational piece. What we often tell people when we do go out into the community and we speak, whether it's at businesses, events, churches, schools, is that the educational piece, to let them know what to look for. Because we say, if you see something, you need to say something.
Just like Homeland Security. And
yes.
It's not happening far away. It's happening right here in our area, in our backyards. All right, well, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us on this very important topic, human trafficking. We thank you for being with us for WGAL in Focus, and we leave you with resources that you can learn about on how to report human trafficking and get help for victims.